What's up, Cougar Nation, and welcome again aboard the Hype Train podcast. I'm your host, Joe Wheat. That's at Joe Wheat27 on Twitter. As always, with my boys Hunter Miller and our resident BYU insider, back-to-back guest of the year champion, Jackson Payne of the Deseret News. How we doing?
I'm gonna make it 3 times in a row, boys. I'm gonna do what the Chiefs couldn't. I'm gonna get that three-peat. It's great to be
Let's
here.
go. If we're around for a year three, but we will be around for a third year because guess what? We have a sponsor now. We have grown up as a podcast. The Hype Train podcast is now presented by Wilner O'Reilly Immigration Law. We made it.
Just when I was about to be out of the podcast game, W&O comes in and saves the podcast. So as thanks, everyone who is currently listening needs to go and give them their business.
Yes, please. So a little bit of backstory here. Wilner and O'Reilly, immigration lawyers. If you have any questions for them, anyone who basically let them know that the Hype Train sent you and your consultation will be free. They have 26 years of experience. They have former immigration officers on staff. They speak 10 different languages, offer free consultations, and getting real results despite all of the noise out there. And again, if you are a Hype Train listener, your consultation is totally free. Just head to wilneroreilly.com. Kelly O'Reilly is one of the partners at this firm. I've known him since I had to have been 10 years old when I met him for the first time. Played a huge part in my life growing up as a young man in Southern California. Amazing man, amazing ambassador for BYU athletics. So again, if any of you guys have any questions about anything related to immigration law, Wilner and O'Reilly are your men. Brethren, I am so stoked about that.
This is a game changer for the podcast. We're about to start taking ourselves so much more seriously. The takes are going to be 100 times better. I'm going to start trying on graphics and on podcast editing. Like the world of the Hype Train podcast is just going to get infinitely better.
We were once 3 idiots with a microphone and a PFF subscription, but now we are 3 idiots with a microphone, a PFF subscription, and a podcast sponsor.
But by gosh, that PFF subscription is now paid for. To give you a glimpse into the podcast game, I shoot from the hip. I sit down at my computer 30 seconds before we start recording, and I just fire off some takes. That the days of that are now gone. I'm going to sit down on my computer at least 5 minutes before the podcast starts, and then I'm going to start firing off some takes.
There we go. There's the Hunter we know and love.
This is legit. I mean, I feel honored to be here for such a monumental moment for the pod. You know, like this is like getting a driver's license. This is like the local band that just plays like bars and like parties and stuff. Finally getting the record deal and selling out, and getting the uptick in quality and getting on the radio. So. Let's go, boys. This is huge.
All right. In other news, do we talk about, dealer's choice? Are we going to talk about the decommitment of the 2026 quarterback, or are we going to talk about fall camp again?
Got to start quarterbacks. It's where everything starts. And by that, I mean the QB battle currently going on at fall camp.
So Jackson, you've been a participant in all of the media availability. We cede the floor to you. Who will be the starting quarterback for BYU in 2025?
Emerson Guileman. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, man, it's been crazy.
Which, according to sources being Jackson Payne, Emerson did have the best throw of camp today.
He had an awesome throw today. I was just like, dag nabbit. Right when I wrote him off, he ropes me back in,
It is now a 4-quarterback battle.
If Will Ferrin learned how to pass, I mean,
is Cole Hagan still on the team?
Not out of sight.
What about Hinckley Rapati? Once he gets a waiver, will he be involved, or did that one pick against Oklahoma State just completely seal his fate as a quarterback?
He's even smaller than Hillstead, so I think we can write him off. And his
is he really?
Hillstead's 5'10". I think Hinckley's like 5'8".
Hillstead is not 5'10". Do not give me that media guide bull crap. He is Utah's record last year, as Hunter Miller so boldly proclaimed last week.
I stick to what the SIDs tell me, okay? All I know is that he picked the wrong year to switch to a single-digit uniform number, because if he was wearing 16 like last year, he would look, it would stretch him out a bit more. He would look taller. The 3, it was the same thing with Jaren Hall. Like Jaren was 6'1" maybe, but the 3 did not make him look 6'1", and Hillstead's kind of living on a prayer in that regard too. But yeah, I mean, was at practice today, been at practice the last few days, or at least when they let us go in. It's been interesting to see. Today they had an extended series of reps with the ones versus the ones, and Hillstead came out with the ones. He was the first quarterback to throw with the ones. I've said it all along. I think McKay Hillstead's going to be the guy. My hot take that I wrote in my column about my 5 bold predictions for BYU for Deseret, which you can read at Deseret.com. I said my hottest take was that Hillstead not only would be the guy, but would start every game this season, which is an exceedingly hot take. 1, because Bear Bachmeier is going to get better and push him as the season goes on. And 2, because BYU doesn't keep quarterbacks healthy through the season. I mean, the fact that Retzlaff, for as reckless as he could be at times and playing a Big 12 schedule last year, like the fact that he started all 13 games is nothing short of a miracle. Obviously, we know he was hurt through some of it, but still, like, BYU's quarterbacks have not had the most consistent availability over the years. And so, yeah, that was my hot take, that Hillstead was going to start every game this year. And obviously it's a hot take. Like, you got to back it up, and it's supposed to be a little outlandish, but I do think Hillstead's going to be the guy. I think he's the most stable. I think he's the most consistent. He has the most experience at the college level. Trayson Bourget, I'm not saying this derogatory. Trayson Bourget is like the Jacob Conover, and this is the Baylor Romney, Jaren Hall.
How is that not derogatory?
I just meant, like, in terms of the dynamic where it's like,
Trayson Bourget did not get a beard card to be compared to the minivan rap guy.
As soon as I said it,
I'm just kidding. I love Jacob Conover. He's a great individual. He was one of the nicest people I met. But
I knew there was going to be a crowd pop, but I just feel like it's a Bear versus McKay race. Trayson's there, but I think Trayson is more of like the floor that they're chasing, or that's chasing them, And so I think I would be willing to say confidently, I don't think Trayson Bourget is going to be the guy at week 1. It's either going to be Bear or McKay. I think they want McKay to be the guy, but I also think they'd rather him be more ready at some point to take over, rather than throw him in and just hope he learns a la Isaac Wilson.
do you mean Bear? The staff wants Bear to be the guy?
Bear, yeah. Sorry, I'm full disclosure. I woke up from a nap like 10 minutes ago, so I'm still 1 foot out the door.
But Jackson, now that we're sponsored, we're waking up 15 minutes before.
My 14 hours of sleep a day I can cut into that for the Hype Train Pod if you got a sponsor now.
Let's go.
But yeah, I think it's gonna be McKay week 1. He was running with the ones today. I just think he gives you the highest floor. It's just a matter of what that ceiling is going to be. And I've said it all along. Like, if BYU just kind of pulls a Utah, lets the running backs cook, leans on its defense, doesn't ask the quarterback to do too much, like kind of those historic Pac-12 Utah teams, that's still a recipe for success. And McKay can be that kind of game manager. Don't ask yourself to do too much quarterback. And he was a great high school quarterback. He throws a great deep ball. The arm is there. It's just the height. It's just some of the other things that he does as a passer that you're not too sure about. And we weren't too sure about Jack Retzlaff last year. So, I mean, I'm willing to roll the dice a second year in a row. I think this is a pretty quarterback-friendly offense. I think there's a lot of weapons to help make the transition a little more seamless. But I do think it's going to be Hillstead week 1, and then it's a matter and then I think that the competition extends into the season where, okay, is this going to be Hillstead this week or Bear? Hillstead or Bear? Ideally, Hillstead is just the guy this year, and then Bear can chase him into the offseason for next year. Because, like, as we've seen in the past, it's not the worst thing in the world if you don't play your true freshman quarterback as a freshman. That's not the worst thing in the world. If it happens, it happens. But, like, I don't think it's a failure if he doesn't play this year. I think it would be great if Hillstead could just be the guy. But as we know, me saying Hillstead would start every game this season was a hot take for a reason, because that doesn't happen at BYU. So, long story short, I've been rambling. Hillstead's the guy week 1. That's my take.
I'm kind of with you. Like, the height doesn't concern me a whole lot. Like, we make jokes about it, but, like, as a college quarterback, like, you can play quarterback in Division I at that height, as long as you can see. Like, the real concern for me is the health. Being that size, taking hits, especially with how BYU likes to use its quarterbacks in the run game, that would be my biggest concern. But it's what's interesting is to your point about McKay having the highest floor. I feel like that was everyone's take about Trayson coming into the competition, was that Trayson was pretty good at everything, not great at anything. He's the one that you want if you have the highest floor. But the way that, at least based off of reports that I've heard, McKay has actually been the one who's had the highest floor. According to sources, he has the fewest interceptions in camp. Big plays have been spread out pretty evenly across his three quarterbacks. But McKay has been the one that's been slightly better than the others at taking care of the football. So I'm kind of with you. I'm thinking that by this time next week, this will be a two-horse race, and that it will be McKay and Bear, mostly because with all of, again, love Trayson, love that he chose BYU. Um, like he chose to walk on here, over scholarship offers from other places. So I appreciate him for that. But with his tools, his measurables, and his experience, I would expect someone like him to be farther ahead of a guy like McKay or Bear, who are missing one of those, either experience or tools that Trayson has that the other two don't. I would expect Trayson to be further along. And because of that, I think because they're neck and neck right now, all three of them. I think the ceiling is higher with the other two, and you just kind of roll with that.
Can I play devil's advocate? Because I believe what you just said about Trayson can be said for McKay, right? Where it's like you have starting experience at, while not a power level conference, Mountain West is one of the better G5 conferences. You have a year in the system already where you backed up Jake Retzloff on a team that went 11-2, competed for a Big 12 championship, won the Alamo Bowl. Now you're entering year 2, and we're talking about you competing for the job and yet to separate yourself truly from a 4-star kid that's, been practicing with the team for 2-3 weeks now, that this time in the spring was at a completely different college. And you're still not really, I mean, Jackson has him as the favorite, but the fact that this is even a discussion of guy who's in year 2 in the program, been in college for a few years, competing with a 18-year-old kid that didn't even have the benefit of being with BYU in the spring, isn't that kind of a red flag of, it's similar discussions of 2019, 2018, when it was Zach Wilson versus Tanner Mangum. And it was, here's a guy who's been with BYU. He should have the leg up, but yet we're talking about an 18-year-old freshman making waves. And we saw how that season played out, where eventually you had to turn to Zach Wilson. So are we seeing a similar situation? I mean, Jackson, you've been there in person. You've seen these guys up close, where we've just seen practice clips that have been doctored and strategically released through social media.
What are you talking about? That's not just like a straight up play-by-play?
It's like the Colorado clip where it's sure Sanders throwing it and then the ball like jumps into a completely different part of the field.
I haven't seen any BYU quarterbacks jumping as they throw. So I think
my
either the ball or the quarterback is jumping. But you know what I mean? Like if they're this close right now, shouldn't we expect that Bear is going to be the better quarterback a month from now as he learns the offense, builds chemistry with his teammates, gets experience working with Aaron Roderick and Kalani Sitake? If it's, even neck and neck at all in August, I would imagine the kid that's barely been here and, has 1 week of practices under his belt with this team is eventually going to surpass the other guy, whether that be 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, 2 months from now. So why not give Bear the reins from the jump? Let him work out the kinks, iron out his game, develop that chemistry against Portland State and Stanford. That way, once you reach the Big 12 schedule, you're playing road games at night in hostile environments. You have got a rivalry game in Provo, Utah against the Utes. Like, let Bear figure it out then. So you're not a Zach Wilson, Tanner Mangum situation where, okay, now we have to turn to the 18-year-old freshman and he's trying to learn on the fly against Hawaii and Northern Illinois and against some better programs when you could have kind of eased him into it.
I mean,
That's my devil's advocate. My 2 cents.
no,
I might be completely off base.
and
But
honestly, I'm with you because I personally think, like, you make a great argument that I personally think Bear, if he's this close to the other guys at this stage in the competition, like, logic would hold that he's only going to get better from here. Like, what's super impressed me about Bear the last week or so, I didn't realize he was so far along as a passer. I mean, like, Jackson has seen more reps than I have because all I've seen is the practice clips. But some of the best throws that I've seen in any of those clips have been Bear. And yes, I have been screenshotting the videos for the split second that the quarterback is on the screen to see who's throwing the picks, to see who's throwing the short balls, see who's throwing the dimes. Like, I am a sick man, to quote Trevor last week. But the question is like, is he this good in practice, and does it just kind of like fall apart when the lights come on? I think that's the question. Like, I think the argument for McKay in this situation is that he's a gamer, that he also stepped into a program that was an absolute dumpster fire as a true freshman and played extremely well before getting hurt. Like, we've seen McKay do it in a game. We haven't seen Bear do it really at all. He was hurt most of last year at the high school level. Like, it's been a long time since Bears played any real significant snaps, or like really any meaningful football. That's the question. Is like, he might look great in practice, but like, does it translate to games? The good news is that you really have a 6-game ramp up until things get really, really difficult on this schedule. So if there was ever a time to try the true freshman, I guess it's now.
I would agree with that. I mean, if BYU wanted to get really funky, like, Portland State is an FCS school and BYU's never lost to an FCS school. And then Stanford is a home game, and Stanford might be the worst P4 team in the country this year. If there was ever a time to alternate drives for quarterbacks, it might be those 2 games. It's a terrible idea and I hate it, but like,
it might work for us.
But it might work for us. The other thing is BYU's defense is really good. Like, BYU is the best defense in the Big 12, arguably, and these are who these 2 quarterbacks are going up against. Like, obviously McKay Hillstead's been in the system, but like, when he's taking first team reps this year, that's like his first time taking first team reps. Like, he's now throwing into the likes of the Jack Kellys and Isaiah Glaskers and Tanner Walls instead of the insert Bountiful high school walk on, right? Like, I just think, like, and also what they do in practice is so unique. Like, Bear isn't allowed to scramble in practice. He did today, but for the past couple times we were viewing, he was told don't leave the pocket. And so, like, he threw a pick to Tanner Wall, and it was a great play by Tanner. But obviously Bear wasn't allowed to leave the pocket. And if he leaves the pocket on that throw, he doesn't throw a pick. So you got stuff like that. Or today, like, the defense won today and it wasn't even close. There were like 4 explosive plays in practice. LJ ran for a 60-yard touchdown. Carson Ryan had a long catch and run with some serious yak, which for a guy who I equate to Zach Ertz as just catch the ball and fall down, and Carson Ryan, the fact that he can go after the catch is pretty encouraging. And then Kean Need had a long catch as well. Other than that, the defense pretty handily won the day, but I think for a big portion of practice, they were trying out a lot of screen RPO stuff. And so the line is blocking differently, and the D-line is penetrating more just by design. And so if you hadn't known that, you'd go and be like, okay, BYU's offensive line is struggling and the D-line is winning everything. And sure, like, the D-line was overwhelming the O-line, but also some of that was by design, right? And so I think, I don't know, it's just like, I think they're being very strategic with how this quarterback battle is going, obviously, where there's so many different factors where it's like, okay, well, McKay did this today on screens, but Bear did this when he couldn't scramble. And like, does that make sense? Like, it's like an obstacle course at quarterback. And so it's just, it's really bizarre. I mean, Aaron Roderick is not a conventional coordinator, as we know. And a lot of that has blessed and benefited BYU over the years. And I think we're seeing that in this quarterback battle with how he's handling these, I guess we could call it 2 quarterbacks now. I don't think it took a long time to see Trayson today when they were rolling out the first teams and the Bachmeyers and the Hillsteads, and I don't think Trayson's in the running anymore, and that's it's tough. Maybe we see Trayson at some point this year just because BYU gets weird with injuries, but like. Yeah, it's been interesting to see how they've managed this two quarterback race now and kind of the different obstacle courses that they put them on.
I think go ahead, Hunter.
I was just gonna say it does suck for Trayson because again he was a guy who was kind of talked about. I think we all imagined it was going to be a 2-horse race. I think a couple weeks ago we thought those 2 horses were going to be Trayson and McKay, with Bear being the highest potential, but also the most raw and the newest. So it does suck for Trayson that we're 4 days or whatever we are into camp, and he's already lost a battle to a 18-year-old kid. But at the same time, want it that way, like have to have it. We can't be 3 weeks into camp and be talking about 3 guys still. You've got to narrow it down. You've got to narrow it down quick because you don't want to be 3 days removed from the start of the season. And it's now we've settled on a guy and we're going to give him all the starter reps. You got to trim it down. So I think one way or another, we had to be talking about a 2 quarterback race on this Tuesday. Unfortunately for Trayson, he's the odd man out, but it had to happen.
The reason I'm most bummed about Trayson arguably not being the starter at BYU at this point is we're going to miss out. If you thought the first Jewish quarterback at BYU was a big storyline, just wait till the first bearded quarterback takes the field at BYU. And we get to have that Barstool Sports graphic. And, at some point it's going to happen. But I'm sad that this Trayson camp performance has led me to believe that it's not happening right now. Beard YU will rise.
Suspending Jake and then turning around and starting a bearded quarterback probably would have been.
The TBMs are going to be raging.
Yeah, I think the scrimmage is going to be crucial this weekend. Like at this stage, one of these guys is going to be the 3rd string quarterback, and your 3rd string quarterback can't be taking first team reps in the second week of fall camp. It just can't.
Yeah.
So again, nothing official has been made. We're just kind of reading the tea leaves off of, what we've seen in practice today. And again, just kind of some things that we're gleaning. We do think it's probably going to come down to McKay and Bear, and whichever it is, their fate will probably be determined this weekend in that first scrimmage. A couple of other overreactions, kind of want to get your guys' take, non-quarterback related from the highlights that you've watched. What are some of your biggest overreactions from the carefully selected highlights that we've been allowed to consume?
Can I include what I've been able to see, even though if it's not online? I'll give you 2 right now. One is JoJo Phillips is going to take a big step this year. He's been involved a lot. The physical tools that he has, the size and the speed and the catching is just it's come light years. This is a guy, obviously he had a good year last year. His biggest play was getting the PI against Utah. Let's not beat around the bush there. That's not going to happen again. He's going to make some bigger plays, and this is a very unproven receiver room aside from like a Chase and a Parker. Chase, if he can stay healthy, will probably be a first-team All-Big 12 guy, and Parker's that just perfect gadget guy. I really like Parker on like the screens underneath that they run. I think his burst from like 0 to 60 is really nice, and I'm excited to see what they do, especially like if McKay starts and they have to simplify the offense a little bit and the throwing screens, it becomes more of an option. Anyway, but JoJo has like a prime avenue to take that wide receiver 2 spot. Reggie Frischknecht as well has been really impressive during camp. I really like what I'm seeing from some of these unproven or younger receivers. And then the D-line, the D-line has me overreacting on 2 fronts. One being the interior depth on the D-line, the D tackles is not enough right now if Justin Kirkland isn't healthy. If Kirkland gets hurt, or if Tanuvasa, he has injury history, gets hurt, this D-line becomes a lot more suspect because, the law firm of Tanuvasa and Kirkland, or Kirkland and Tanuvasa in the middle.
Speaking of law firms, Wilner and O'Reilly, 10 different languages.
So the law firm of Tanuvasa and Kirkland up the middle. Like if those guys aren't available, there's not a lot there. And so that'll be interesting to see. But then on the flip side of that, the edge rushers and kind of the Jeff Hansen referred to them as lottery tickets. You know, BYU has bought a lot of lottery tickets on the edge with these Hunter Cleggs and these Tassili Akanas and these Ephraim Asiatas, where they have these young, high ceiling guys that haven't really shown out yet. And if they can get like, they have so many of these lottery tickets, like eventually 2 of them are going to hit, right? And so this BYU defense has not gotten to the quarterback very well at all over the past few years. Last year they had 20 sacks, which was second fewest in the Big 12. And the year before that, they had 11 sacks. So they did take that jump from 2023 into 2024. I think they can do it again in 2025. One of my bold predictions I said was that they would have 26 sacks as a defense, which would give them about 2 a game, which I think is like good enough, right? I mean, that's BYU hasn't done that aside from 2020 since 2018 when Corbin Kafusi was, Corbin was like a 10 sack guy on the edge. And so I've been impressed by the younger defensive ends and edge rushers. I think that someone's bound to break out there. Akana had a big play today. Ephraim Asiata, the ceiling is so high. You know, Logan Latui and Bodie Schoenaver, like, you know, they have these guys, and there's so much intrigue in this room. And we've seen flashes in camp. I really think they're going to figure out a way to get the most out of that room this year, especially if the defensive interior is thinner, like I suggested. But if they can get those edge rushers figured out, I mean, the defense is going to – it's going to be a night and day difference, right?
We'll get to the defense in a second and where that kind of stands. My biggest overreaction is on the other line of scrimmage. I have been really impressed with the tackles on this BYU offense so far. Again, very limited clips, but I knew that the interior of the offensive line was going to be pretty good with Waylon Lapuaho, Bruce Mitchell, and Austin Liausa all played, significant snaps last year. Speaking of Austin Liausa, had a hilarious moment today where he just jumped on the pile for no reason, almost killed a man. But the tackles, man, I think these tackles are going to be better than they were last year. Like Keim and Etienne both played really well. Etienne was obviously first team all Big 12. I think Andrew Gentry is going to be pushing for that. Like the way, like he is a massive mountain of a man, 6'8", 315. Isaiah Jada on the other side, 6'6", 315. Both have high level recruit pedigree that BYU hasn't had in the last few years. And some of these plays where Gentry is like the biggest highlight that we saw from last week was Bear Bachmeier throwing it down the field to LaMason Waller, who made an excellent diving catch. To me, the most impressive part of that play is Andrew Gentry was blocking a 4-star top 50 recruit in Tausili Akana so well that Bear Bachmeier could have laid on the ground and rolled for 10 yards without being touched. Like just so much time in the pocket that it just having those 2 tackles out there are going to make a quarterback's life so much easier because they'll be protected, they'll have time to throw, and the run game will be a lot better than it was in 2023 when BYU just couldn't get anything going on offense because they just couldn't figure out what to do when the ball wasn't being aired out.
My takeaway is that fall camp has gone so well for BYU that the highlights we're not forced to put out is our quarterback jumping in a clean pocket to see over the offensive line to hit a wide receiver that's jogging across the field. Is that,
dude? Utah is posting clips of receivers catching with a closed fist.
I'm not going to say that that's my takeaway, but I'm just asking, like, what if can I say that that's my takeaway?
Yeah.
My other takeaway was piggybacking kind of off of Jackson. Last week we went position group by position group and said better, worse, same. And I said wide receivers have the potential to be better. I'm concerned about, Darius is gone, Keelan is gone. I'm firmly in they're better now. Like,
agreed.
I think the BYU defense is obviously seems to be winning every single practice, but these clips that are coming out from the wide receivers, Jackson talked about JoJo Phillips. I think you still have Chase Roberts, who's an absolute dog coming back, could have gone to the NFL draft a season ago. Parker Kingston, dynamic. You can utilize him in a lot of different ways. We saw him break the ankles of Travis Hunter back in December in San Antonio. But the clips coming out from JoJo, we debated the Tay Nakua catch a week ago.
So
Mason Waller. Well, we debated it. The Mason Waller clips, like there's a lot of seemingly dogs on the BYU wide receiver group. So my takeaway is that despite losing some key pieces, the BYU wide receiver group, I'm going to confidently Sharpie in better than they were a season ago.
So that begs the question, name the position group on this team that is less talented than it was a year ago.
Well, we went through the offense already. Do we need to then go through the defense?
Yeah, let's do it. So let's start with Jackson. Just went through the defensive ends. Let's start with the defensive ends. Last year, your starting defensive ends were Isaiah Banya and Tyler Batty. Jackson had the stat about 20 sacks last season. Yes, BYU was not getting after. They weren't sacking the quarterback, but both Jack Kelly and Tyler Batty were top 5 in the conference in QB hits. So it's, for whatever reason, BYU was always just a step slow on getting to the quarterback. Does that improve this year when you have Logan Latui, Bodie Schoonover, Tausili Akana, Ephraim Asiata, and Hunter Clegg coming up for those reps?
First off, I just want to say I think I called Schoonover Shoemaker earlier, and I just want to deeply apologize from the bottom of my heart. I pride myself and consider myself a man of faith, and
you know who else considers himself a man of faith? Kelly O'Reilly from Wilner O'Reilly Immigration Law.
I'm going to keep teeing these
finally,
up. Get your bang for your
finally an attorney that won't have to apologize live on air.
It's the best ad read you can give. I think the ceiling is higher for these defensive ends. However, Tyler Batty was a first-team All Big 12 guy last year, and he has an inside track to make a 53-man NFL roster. I feel like it's hard to say that BYU is more talented at the defensive end position when you're losing a first-team guy. But at the same time, like you said, like there's so many young guys, like the collective talent. If you were to like add up all the talent, yeah, all that talent's there. It's just a matter of how high the talent is on for your first team guys.
And like just to piggyback off that with the Tyler Batty comps, the question is like, I think we all agree in 3 years the defensive ends are gonna be better than they were last year. Like I think. To Jackson's point, you have a bunch of lottery tickets in hand. Some one of those is going to hit. That's one of the benefits of stacking great talent. I am willing to make the bold prediction that the defensive ends will be more productive in terms of sacks than they were a year ago. And because of that, I think they're going to be better because I think the talent. Like, again, in terms of pedigree, Tausili Akana is the most talented defensive end that BYU has had maybe in a generation. Again, like top 50 recruit, BYU hasn't had one of those along the defensive line in a long time. He struggled to get on the field at Texas because he couldn't get his weight up. He's now up to 240. He's made some really nice plays today in practice. Like, it might be Logan Latui and Bodie Schoonover to start the season. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tausili Akana becoming an every down defensive end for BYU within the first month.
I don't think it's that bold a take to say that the defensive ends are going to have more sacks this year because I think the defensive ends had like maybe 4 sacks last year.
Easy. Let's go.
That's an easy over. I mean, if you're a betting man, which no one should be, wink, wink, nod, nod.
Tyler Batty had more interceptions than sacks last year.
It's absurd. If Tyler Batty does like the Fred Warner or Todd Christensen thing where he goes to the NFL and becomes like a legit standout, despite kind of like I don't want to say he flew under the radar at BYU, but like I think the idea of Tyler Batty at least as a pass rusher, was better than the reality of Tyler Batty in terms of like getting home. Like he had like
At least in sacks, right? Like he led the
sacks.
conference in QB hits 2 years in a row.
Yeah, he got to the quarterback. He set the edge on the run, but like in terms of getting to the quarterback, you look at the sack numbers and you're like, okay. But if he just gives the NFL and becomes like this freak, like 10 sack a year type guy, like Trey Hendrickson light,
I would love nothing more.
that would be hilarious. Like, I mean, obviously Fred Warner, we knew he was great at BYU for him to be like the top linebacker in the NFL. It's kind of bonkers. Like, and if Tyler Batty could do the same thing where he's like, oh, Tyler Batty's like a Pro Bowl sack guy in the NFL, it's like, what? But those Big 12 offensive lines, you know, they're tough. Get to the NFL, it's cream cheese.
Hunter, what are your thoughts?
There's maybe not a player that I want to see succeed more and think can be really, really good than Ephraim Asiata. Like he's just got the build, the pedigree, the look. He's got the friggin' sick tribal tattoos. Like he looks like a guy that can come in and come off the edge and get a bunch of sacks. So I agree with. Go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of tattoos, during a bye week, can we do a pod where we rank best tattoos on the team? Is that a good bye week?
Where is 100%? Where is Sam Vanderhaar on this list? We'll discuss.
Yes.
Jesus.
Get
Next
him
week.
on the pod, and he could be the tattoo expert.
So I'm gonna. My heart is telling me yes. Like this is gonna be a better group. Jackson makes a heck of an argument where Tyler Batty and an all-conference caliber player who's gonna be playing on Sundays this fall. You don't just replace that with whatever. But I do think that in this case, the sum of the parts can be greater than the single part from last year, where it was basically Tyler Batty's show a season ago, whereas this year there's a bunch of different guys I think that can contribute and compete and wreak havoc. So I'm going to say better as a group, because again, we're not comparing best player from this group against best player from last year's group. It's just the entirety of the group. And I'm going to kind of lean on that as we get further into this discussion on the defense. So I'm going to say better because the sum of all the pieces.
Defensive tackles.
I just said what I said. I'm going exact opposite. You add Tanavasa, instantly just better.
I think, in terms of talent, I think the top 4 defensive linemen for BYU this year, defensive tackles, with Kiana Tanavasa, Justin Kirkland, as well as John. Oh my gosh, I
JT.
practiced this. JT, we'll just call him JT.
JT Snow, the Giants.
Great pull. JT and Anisi Purcell. I think those 4 are about as good of a defensive tackle 2 deep as BYU has had in, I don't know. When was the last time BYU had an NFL defensive tackle?
Kairos Tonga.
Multiple.
New England Patriot. Kairos Tonga, by the way.
Let's go.
Commanders are going to kick your butt in joint practices this week, Hunter.
But that's the
preseason smack on the Hype Train pod.
So unequivocally, KT and Justin are going to be the 2 best defensive tackles BYU's had in almost a generation, it feels like. The question is who's behind them? I have no idea. Like that's the scary question. You have 4 guys that I feel really confident in. Justin Kirkland's already hurt. Kiana Tanavasa has an injury history. That's where it's been said ad nauseum about the defensive tackle room. That's where I get a little nervous. But as long as KT is healthy, man, this BYU defense is going to be able to stop the run.
Actually, the last time BYU had an NFL defensive tackle prospect was a season ago, Blake Mangelson, who spent, I think, 2 weeks with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, there you go.
Season.
I'm gonna miss Blake Mangelson just because saying the Mangler is really fun. I'm also that's a perfect Pittsburgh Steeler. Like
just
Kiesel, Chris Hoke, Blake Mangelson. Those are Pittsburgh Steelers.
So last year, the heaviest defensive tackle, I believe, was Blake Mangelson at 275. This year, the smallest defensive tackle is Sonny Tuala at 295.
Who is Hans Olsen going to give his Steel Man of the Game post game award to now that Blake Mickelson is no longer on the roster?
Garrison Grimes, baby. I love that Jeff Grimes' son plays for BYU. This is
Dude,
just there's so many jokes. Like, I mean, he seems like a great kid and a solid snapper, but like, there's just so much humor in that. Like,
I need you to go listen to his Coug Connect interview that they just posted on their story with Garrison Grimes because it is hilarious. He's rocking a Miami Vice, Miami Heat jersey, and he's talking about how Christ died on the cross for all of us to become better in the deepest voice you've ever heard. I was not prepared for that voice, but it was
that's a must-get hype train interview.
100%. It was just like, wow, I want to be your friend.
I look forward to clipping like 2 seconds of that interview and using it as like a reaction video on Twitter, like similar to the Jay Hill I Am Chaos. It's like if he does a Ric Flair woo at any point of the interview, like that's going on the feed during game day.
Let's go. Linebackers. 2
thumbs up, I think.
Yeah, better.
Can I say that what worries me most about the linebackers is that BYU runs a lot of 4-2-5, and I hesitate to take any of those linebackers off the field in favor of either another unproven defensive tackle or another unproven corner. Like, linebackers are the strength of this team.
Yes, I think that's a fair fear, but like Jay Hill has talked about how he wants to add kind of wrinkles to this defense to distinguish it from last year. And last year they ran a ton of 4-2-5, namely because their secondary was probably their strength of the team. Obviously, I mean, Kelly and Glasgow were outstanding and Taggart had his moments, but the secondary was so good last year and so experienced. And this year you have questionable D-tackle depth, questionable secondary experience, obviously very top heavy in the secondary. But I think maybe they're going to run more 4-3-4 type stuff. Just had to make sure that added up to 11. Didn't want one of those, but
they're gonna run a 5-4-3.
I think Jay Hill is so creative with this defense. I mean, you hear players calling him a mastermind. How many players are calling their coach a legit mastermind, right? Like that's high praise. And so I think Jay Hill understands where the strength of his defense lies, and I think he's going to try and get as many of those guys on the field at the same time. And especially if Kirkland is down and you can only have Tanavas up the middle, if there's a guy that I'm okay with being the lone like nose tackle up the middle, it's Tanavasa. And then if you have a Kelly, a Glasgow, and a Sarah, and like a Shea Brian Strother or a Miles Hall or whoever it is behind them at linebacker, like I'm sleeping easy. So sorry, go ahead.
Here's the better question. In 10 years, are we going to talk about this trio of starting linebackers of Jack Kelly, Isaiah Glasgow, and Siale Sarah with the same reverence that we talk about the defense with Kyle Van Noy, Brandon Ogletree? Hunter, you're shaking your head.
I mean, unless one of these guys goes on to be a 10-year starter in the NFL with multiple Super Bowl championships.
I think maybe Super Bowl as a team.
Kyle Van Noy is the best defensive player to ever play at BYU.
100%, I agree. But
followed second by Ben Criddle. You can cut that out.
It goes. Kyle Van Noy, Ben Criddle, Moanga,
Micah Hanneman.
There's no comparing.
Yes.
Like you said Kyle Van Noy, and the next name out of your mouth was Ogletree, and it was still a firm like no.
But see, that's where it's like Isaiah Glasgow. Again, I'm not predicting Isaiah Glasgow is going to be Kyle Van Noy. Isaiah Glasgow is an absolute wrecking ball. I don't know where he's going to be drafted into the NFL next year. I don't know if he's going to be drafted into the NFL next year, but he will be making a roster and he will be a starting linebacker in the NFL at some point. Jack Kelly last year, after week 3, was considered the 5th best linebacker in the NFL draft and elected to come back. Um, Again, there's a lot of projection that's happening here. I understand Cal Van Noy is the GOAT of BYU defense. I think all 3 of the linebackers that BYU has right now will play in the NFL.
I agree with that. I think a better
we'll make a 53-man roster, will start multiple years.
I think a better benchmark for linebacker pairs isn't the Van Noy Ogletree. It might be the Fred Warner Harvey Longy, because obviously Fred Warner's
Taki on that team too.
I was going to say the 2017 BYU linebacker room of Fred Warner, Sione Taki, Butch Powell.
That was a good one.
And Butch too. Yeah, I mean, I just feel like
he that shall not be named, Francis Bernard.
Because Fred is obviously the best linebacker in the NFL, has been for the last few years and will be for the next few years. But Fred at BYU felt very much more like Isaiah Glasker at BYU.
He was
like Kyle was playing, and we were like, "This is the best defensive player ever." He like single-handedly beat Ole Miss on the road. He single-handedly won a bowl game for BYU.
Kyle had
was a game wrecker. Fred Warner was very, very good at BYU.
Like,
he was not quite that same level.
When you have a strip sack recovery for a touchdown, that's called a Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah,
Kyle Van Noy. I'm not saying it was a good case. I'm not saying that at all. But Kyle Van Noy had a very unorthodox, but you could make the case for a Heisman candidacy. Like just with what he did defensively and the way he swung games. Like if there was like WAR, like wins above replacement, like in baseball, or win shares for college football, Kyle Van Noy was probably like top 3 in the country that year. Fred Warner was great, but like you said, he was a Glasker. And then you got 2 serviceable NFL guys and Sione Taki and Harvey Longy and then a Butch Powell. Like, I think that's the comparison where like you have one freak that just jumps into stardom in the NFL, and then a couple serviceable guys who play multiple years, get that NFL pension, make some plays in playoff games or whatnot. But I think
it's a topic for another time. How I remember Fred Warner at BYU, it was not surprising to me that he became an NFL star. He just happened to play on the worst BYU football team in the last 50 years, and he single-handedly made that defense kind of good.
They were like 20.
I don't know. I was just about to say there has never been a more wasted unit than that 2017 BYU defense. It was
100%. I agree. I agree.
But like he didn't make it. It was just unreal names from top to bottom. I mean, you're looking at Fred Warner,
but that
Sione
defense was
Taki, Butch
actually
Powell,
pretty good.
Corbin Kafusi, Zane Anderson, Diane Gunwalaku, Adam Pulsifer, Micah Hanneman, Troy Warner, Chris Wilcox. Like this was a Kairos Tonga, Trajan Peely. Like that was such a good BYU defense. They had 17 sacks on the year, and they went 4-9 because of how bad the offense was. Like that was such a good defense, and the offense was just, if they could have been kind of serviceable instead of completely inept, they would have been such a good BYU football team. But I don't think it was just because of Fred. They had just guys at every position.
Potential topic for another day. Who is the worst BYU quarterback that could have gotten that 2017 team to a bowl game?
Oh, now that's a fun game.
Oh, Jake Retzlaff.
Dare I was going to say Brett Ingeman for the meme, but if you want to go for the jugular with Retzlaff.
Matt Berry. Oh, that is a good question. 2018, Zach Wilson.
I feel like you could go worse than that, though.
I don't know. Like
Joe Critchlow if he started the whole year.
Oh,
James Lark. James Lark. Final answer.
Brendan Gaskins.
Stacy Connor.
Here's another hypothetical question.
Now that is a deep cut.
Hypothetical question number 2. If you keep the entire roster the exact same, but the starting quarterback for all 12 games is Christian Stewart, what is that BYU team's record?
In 2017? Speaking of
2017 team, everything's the same. Offense, everyone's the same on offense. Defense is the same. Christian Stewart is the quarterback. What's the record?
Random plug, look at me, Louie, whatever. I met Christian Stewart's mom at Lake Tahoe 2 weeks ago. She is lovely. She is wonderful. She came out.
What do you mean by that?
Well, no, I was like out paddleboarding and she came up to me just to ask me, well, what do you think of the team this year?
Get
And we,
Christian on
we
the pod.
talked, yeah, we talked for like 10 minutes about whether or not Jake Retzloff was any good and who the next guy was going to be and how
What did she
Robert and
think? Did she
I
think Jake
wasted her
was good?
son's talent, which was true.
I maintain is a top 5 quarterback at BYU in the last like decade and a half.
The
I
Christian
think so
Stewart,
too.
Since Max Hall, Christian Stewart top 5.
the Christian Stewart Jared Goff game is like top 5 most electric BYU performances ever. I'm not talking about like at least since 2000. I'm not talking about football. I'm not talking about quarterbacks. I'm talking about just BYU performances. Like that
Christian
game
Stewart was legit,
sick.
man. I think he's better than Slovis. I think he's better than Retzloff.
She said she was going to listen to this.
down.
I really hope she's listening to this because she said she was going
Great
to.
timing.
Better takes this year's roster to the national title game. Okay, I'm not hearing Slovis.
Zach, Jaron Hall, Tanner or Taysom Hill,
Taylor Romney.
I think that's where Christian enters the conversation.
Which is so crazy because like when I think of like the last whatever, I always feel like BYU has decent quarterback play. It makes you realize one, how long Jaron Hall, Taysom Hill, and Zach Wilson were on the rosters that they were on. And two, we forget how bleak quarterback play was during the independence era until Christian Stewart walked onto that field.
I'm looking at the team
BYU
schedule right
BYU.
now. Sorry,
BYU.
I mean,
BYU.
they beat like literally. Let's just check. Let's just
10
check
and 2.
off.
I'm looking
10 and
at
2.
2 in 2017.
10 and 2.
Brother, that's a step too far.
BYU had 3 losses that year where they scored less than 16 points and they lost by 7 or fewer points. One of them was to Utah. I don't think Christian Stewart's beating Utah that year.
You beat Utah. Utah was 7. Utah was 7 and 6
I'm just
that
trying
year.
to stay nuanced.
It was trash.
I'm trying to stay nuanced.
Boo.
What? You guys, the Hype
Boo.
Train podcast. What the
What
heck
kind
are you
of
trying to be
podcast?
nuanced for?
I
Are
think
you
they win
new
2 more
here?
games. I
Back
say
to
they win
back?
2 more games. Maybe they beat East Carolina.
Look,
Leave me
wow.
alone.
Three in a row isn't going to happen if you're going to bring nuance to the Hype Train podcast.
9 and-
That's not
3
what
and
we
0 is
do
going to
here.
happen because their quarterback is throwing jump balls in practice.
9 and 3 at worst. I think you lose to Wisconsin, you lose to LSU. That's a given.
Yes.
You beat Portland State, obviously. Utah State was 6 and 7 on the year.
You beat
Not
Utah
great.
State.
They beat
Literally,
Utah
Coy
State.
Detmer Jr. They should have beaten Utah State with 4 interceptions from Coy Detmer Jr.
Okay, I'm gonna final answer 9 and 3. You definitely beat East Carolina, San Jose State, Fresno State, UNLV, UMass, and Hawaii. That's a given.
100%.
That ECU game was a Gardner Minshew masterclass. I don't want it to be forgotten.
You
They would absolutely
beat-
beat Utah State. That game was horrific. I totally agree.
You beat Utah State.
You
You
know
beat
it.
Utah. I think you split Mississippi State and Boise State. And I think you lose to LSU and Wisconsin. 9 and 3.
I'm gonna say 7 and 6.
Oh, that's a terrible
Howard.
answer.
If they win their
Get
bowl
him
game,
Terrible
off.
answer.
Get him off. Is Jake Hatch available? Where's Nate
All right,
Slack
back
when
to-
you need him?
fine, 8 and 5. Golly.
This
Safeties.
conversation
Who
has gone.
put us on this topic?
This conversation's gone off the rails. What you don't want going off the rails is the law firm that represents you. Make sure you use W&O for all your immigration law needs. Best of the best. They never go off the rails. Make sure your law firm never goes off the rails. And get W&O.
Like this ad read.
Like this ad read
By the
has.
way, I missed I had it in my head and we moved on too quickly. When we were talking about Sam Vanderhaar, the next words out of my mouth were, speaking of immigrants, if you're looking for an immigration lawyer.
Serious
That
though,
would have been so
Wilner
perfect.
O'Reilly, best of the best. Immigration law can be
Look,
overwhelming, but Wilner O'Reilly is here to help. 26 years of experience and a former immigration officer on their team. They've earned a reputation for excellence, serving actors, athletes like BYU, former players, perhaps, probably not. I don't know. major companies and families like yours. They speak 10 languages. That's 10 languages. That's more than any returned missionary on the BYU football team, including Spanish, and consultations are always free for Hype Train listeners. Make sure you mention Hype Train and contact them at wilneroreilly.com.
Love it. Safeties.
Better.
We do not have a safety on the team that is giving opposing players the playbook. And for that reason, I am going to say better.
100%. 100%.
I think I'm really encouraged by the safety room because you have a guy in Tanner Wall who could wear the green dot and be that like quarterback of the defense, could play in the NFL, could be an all-conference guy. And then you have 4 guys around him that have played meaningful game reps and have high ceilings or high floors or whatever it be, and could be productive. And so, I mean, there's so much depth at that room, and it was such a productive unit last year. Obviously, like Prasis and Zatswala had some major growing pains and key moments, but there were some highlights there as well. And I think they have to be better than they were last year just by default, right? And so I'm really encouraged by Tanner. I'm really encouraged by the other guys that we're seeing. I think Talon Alfrey is a guy that doesn't get talked about enough. He can come in a pinch. I don't think Talon Alfrey is going to be a starter, but he can come in a pinch and make a big play. Raider Damuni, we know what he can do. And then Satwell and Prasis, you know what you got there. And there's some high upside there. And so I'm really encouraged by the safeties. I was in baseball, like it's been said that it defensively, you want to build around a strong catcher, a solid shortstop, and a solid center fielder, right? Like you want to be strong up the middle. And I think that's the same defensively in football too. And I think BYU's done a really good job of that, where they have one healthy Kirkland and Tanavasa are so solid up front on the defensive interior. You have one of the best linebacker groups in BYU history in Jack Kelly, Isaiah Glass, Garcia Sarah. And then you have a guy in Tanner Wall in the back end at safety who can, play quarterback back there and kind of align everybody. And so I think BYU is so strong up the middle defensively. And I think when you have that solid backbone, everything else falls into place, especially when you have a guy like Gennaro Guilford that just no matter what, like Gennaro Guilford could throw me out at corner and make it work. Like that guy just gets everything out of his players. So I'm encouraged by the defense, especially because of that backbone, like I said. But yeah, safety and linebacker, like linebackers by far, linebackers definitely the number one group on the team. I don't think safety is that far behind.
Jackson, you joke about them putting you at corner. That was literally the defensive strategy from like 2005 to 2015.
And that's why they had to drop 8. I'm not sold on Tanner Wall.
Do you remember
Jackson?
Do you remember 5 seconds ago when Jackson Payne was talking about trying to establish nuance in the podcast, and he comes out here and is the number one fanboy, and rightfully so, of 59 overall on college football video game Tanner
No
Wall.
Longer.
I love Jackson being on the podcast because that's the episode where it's like we'll get the entire year's worth of like Tanner Wall mentions.
Rightfully so. Tanner Wall is the best.
No, I'm just asking if there's any is there any reason of why you're such a big Tanner Wall guy?
We have a sponsor now, Jackson. We need to disclose any conflicts of interest that we have.
Look, I grew up with the guy. We're boys, but I'm not jockeying like Jacob Conover out here.
No, I'm giving you a hard time. My boy's Joe Tukuafo. He's the best offensive lineman in BYU history. Ula Tolotau would have been like Derrick Henry times 10 had he not gotten busted.
Then there's me and there's me and fellow Centennial Husky Jake Retzloff.
Look, if you want to,
me and you, Joe, have a bad track record.
If you want to,
Jackson Payne from the DC area literally has the poster child for what it means to be a BYU football player,
and I'm taking crap for it.
Meanwhile, Trevor's cousins with BYU's most hated former player of all time, Joe's high school connect, is now kicked off the team, and my high school boy was caught playing ultimate frisbee late at night at BYU. It's not the most well-rounded.
For the kids listening, what does that mean, Hunter?
Well, I mean, there's you get a frisbee, you got to utilize
Toss it
it
around.
for something, right? Yeah, you toss it around.
All right. The last thing I'll say on Tanner Wall is if you want to know how valuable he is to the defense, look what happened last year when they took him off the field. Just go back and look at big plays that BYU's defense gave up and see if Tanner was on the field. That's all I'm going to say.
We'll have you back on in 2 weeks
so
we can get a play-by-play breakdown for an hour and a half.
I'm not sold on Tanner Wall comment got exactly like what I was hoping for.
Well, when you said it, I was like, I know this is a bit. And then you held like the greatest poker face of all time. And I'm like, wow, we're really doing this. He's going for it.
I'm just saying, EA Sports is never wrong. 59 overall.
That
was crazy. He was rated lower than fake made-up players. We have fake players who had a higher rating last year than Tanner
Preston
Wall.
Anderson is really eating Tanner Wall's lunch on EA Sports.
I love it.
We all agree safety's better.
Yeah, other players, Raider Damuni, Falatau Satawala, like those two should be battling it out for the other safety spot. Two of the most high upside safeties BYU's had in a long, long time, with the exception of Tanner Wall, of course. Cornerback.
I got a take.
All right, let's hear it.
And I'm going to say better.
Whoa!
That's bizarre.
You know what?
I am that much of a believer in Trey Alexander, in Evan Johnson, in Mo Bamba. Like, I firmly believe that these guys, Jonathan Cabella, there's just Jacob Robinson is a huge loss. He's another guy undrafted who is looking like he is going to make the San Francisco 49ers roster. He will be playing on Sunday. At the very least, he's going to be practice squad.
Can we start including free agents that make NFL rosters as draft picks? Because BYU was like leading the conference in that.
It just needs to be guys on NFL rosters, right? Like no one cares if you're a 5th round draft pick that got cut after the second preseason game, whereas an undrafted guy is, starting.
Yes.
Jacob Robinson is a big loss. Mark Collins, I loved Mark Collins, but there's just something about this group and the swagger that they have that, for lack of a better term, that it factor, the confidence that comes with Trey Alexander. Like he is, in talking with him, I'm here for 3 years and then I'm on to the league. Like that's his mentality. And they don't take crap from anyone. Trey Alexander's on Twitter talking trash to Utah fans, poking the bear. They're just not scared of anything. And I think there's something to be said. Like you want a wide receiver in the NFL to be a diva. It's the meme of the tweets from the quarterbacks, the tweets from the running backs, and then the tweets from the wide receivers. You want Stephon Diggs dating Cardi B and possibly doing cocaine on a boat in Miami in the offseason. Like that's what you want.
For the kids, Hunter.
No, he doesn't condone cocaine in Miami.
I do not condone, but you kind of want that behavior from a wide receiver in the NFL.
Just not at BYU.
You don't want to do it. Not at BYU.
Cody Hagan, turn off the show right now.
There's just like behaviors that kind of go hand in hand with the best of the best at each position in this game of football. I don't know why it is. And for one reason or another, like the way these cornerbacks present themselves, conduct themselves, the way they talk, the way they act, and it might all be for nothing, but it makes me as a fan a believer in what they can bring. And Jacob Robinson, silent assassin. Mark Collins, I don't know what he sounds like. Trey Alexander and Jonathan Cabella and these guys on this BYU secondary group,
Evan Johnson,
Mo Bamba, they bring something to the table that inspires confidence from me in their roles as defensive backs on this BYU football team. The best corners are always the trash talking, in your face, never going to back down guys, the Jalen Ramseys, right? The Jair Alexanders, like they're out there with some swagger. The Asante Samuels, if you want to go back, the Champ Bailey's, Jackson, the D'Angelo Halls, Jackson, like these guys, these guys were the best of the best at the defensive back position, and they weren't scared of anything. They were confident. They had an attitude. They were awesome. And I see that in these guys.
I need someone who's going to celebrate on an overthrow.
Yes.
I need
quarterback makes a terrible throw and you're in the face of the wide receiver.
I need someone
that's
putting
right.
the
You're not
sword,
getting nothing on me.
I need someone putting the seatbelt on while a quarterback dirts the football.
The wide receiver drops the pass and you're like, yeah, strapped, buddy. Like, that's what I need. And that's, I think, what these guys are going to bring.
Yeah, I agree with that, Hunter. The greatest BYU football team of all time is the 96 team. I don't think that's that hot of a take. Obviously, 84 won the title, but I think 96 beats them.
I agree.
Speaking of best of all time, Wilner and O'Reilly.
That's right. I'm teeing him up, Joe, and you're hitting him out of the park. Let's go. I interviewed Tim McTire, who was one of the corners on that team. And up until this Jay Hill era of the BYU defense, that was the pretty much undisputed best cornerback group BYU's ever had, that 96 era. Obviously, history will tell about the Jay Hill era, but having pick six from the corner position and having NFL guys is a big deal for BYU. Anyway, I interviewed Tim McTire for the 25th anniversary of the 96 team. And I said something like, yeah, you guys had a certain swagger. And he stops me, puts a finger in my chest. And he's like, we didn't have swagger. We had attitude. And he said it kind of sounded like Ice Cube when he said it. There was just there was a gravity to it. And I was like, dang, I just got chills, right? And that's what I think this BYU cornerback.
Sit down, white boy.
But that's what I think. Like Hunter said, this Guilford has kind of established this culture of attitude. These guys are dogs. They talk the talk, but they walk the walk as well. And I think last year we were kind of having the same conversation at corner where it was man, BYU lost Eddie Heckard and they lost Camden Garrett. Obviously, you bring back a Jacob Robinson, but besides that, it's a pretty unproven group. Now it's oh man, BYU lost Jacob Robinson. They lost Mark Collins. They bring back an Evan Johnson and a Mo Bamba, but who else they have? BYU outkicks their coverage at corner every single year.
And even before, the year before, you lose, Gabe Judy-Lally and Caleb Hayes, and you're thinking, oh man, what are they going to do? They bring over a couple guys from Weber State, and it's the best cornerback room BYU's ever had until the next season. It's
Guilford. Guilford just gets it done. He's I don't want to call him Billy Beanish, Moneyball, where he just recreates.
It's a good call
in the aggregate, but he does every year. It's just every year. I think we underrate Gennaro Guilford because he's not I just think we need to be talking about him more as a BYU community, just because what he's done at cornerback over the past few years has been revolutionary. And for BYU to have a possible NFL cornerback that isn't Mike Davis, that's so huge for BYU.
How crazy is it that the one guy to go on to have an NFL career as a BYU defensive back in the last 2 decades or longer is a guy who was benched and never really played at BYU.
And is probably the worst defensive back in the history of the Washington football organization. Bad memories, that guy last year. Love him because he's a Cougar, but that was a rough sledding for old Mikey.
So much for nuance.
Mikey Queensay.
Look, when it comes to this team, there's no nuance. Terry's getting the bag.
At this point, I am prepared to say Gennaro Guilford is the most important coach on staff. I guess maybe non-coordinator.
Jay Hill.
Jay Hill is obviously super important. But Gennaro Guilford, year after year, I didn't think Evan Johnson would ever. I'm sorry, Evan, if you're listening to this, it's going to be followed up with a compliment.
It's just what are you?
It's just catching strays. I did not think Evan Johnson would ever be a playable cornerback. He was fast. He had some good measurables. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because he looked like Steve Urkel and his jersey was 8 times too big in some of those media availabilities. I didn't think he'd ever be playable. He was nails last year. He was BYU's third best coverage player last year, second best corner behind only Jacob Robinson. Maury Bamba definitely has that attitude. He was talking trash about Travis Hunter's personal life, which we don't have to get into too much. Love that. But he's also really freaking good. Trey Alexander, again, has that attitude. By recruiting pedigree, one of the most like one of the highest touted recruits BYU's been able to land at corner in a long time, until Jackson Gates this year. But what stands out to me is BYU put out some clips of just one-on-ones. Even on the plays where BYU was completing the passes, BYU's corners were draped in coverage. Like, and a lot of those routes included double moves, post corners, like tricky routes that involve the corner needing to react within a split second. They were right there every single time. Like, I feel very, very confident, and I can't believe I'm saying this after losing Jacob Robinson. I feel more confident this year that you can put any one of the opposing team's wide receivers in man coverage that we're going to play this year, and it's going to be clamps, especially that team in Salt Lake who has people catching a football with their fists.
At least they're catching it. It's more than I could have said last year. Improvements.
All right, now let's go through the Utah roster.
Worse.
I'm not. You got to pay me for that.
Which we can do now because of Wilner and O'Reilly.
Thanks to Wilner and O'Reilly.
All right, special team, better or worse?
Oh,
We got Grimes, dude. Long snapping, better.
I feel like losing Marion makes you worse by default just because he's an All-American guy, but like it's like an A to an A minus.
Marion was the king of no, yes kick returns and a lot of no kick returns. Big play guy. It took him a second to kind of find his footing. Can Tiger Bachmeier or Cody Hagan? He's there. BYU is not going to run 2 kicks back for touchdowns this year. I feel pretty confident in saying that. I don't know. Like Tiger Bachmeier, proven returner at Stanford, has taken a kickback for a touchdown. Cody Hagan is faster than Keelan.
Keelan's 2 kick returns last year were against Wyoming and Utah, basically 2 very low-level G5 talent level programs. I feel like Tiger and Parker together can replicate that.
Both have stacked nothing but Mountain West talent this offseason.
Yes. It's basically 2 teams that had a losing record in the Mountain West.
Just 2 teams fighting for the same recruiting pool. The Battle of Evanston coming near you. Which they actually do play this year. They do play. Utah is going to Laramie this year, so I am watching that game with bated breath.
The Battle of Evanston is so funny. I'm like losing my mind over here. I'm sorry.
Speaking of battles, find a law firm that will battle for you. That's Wilner O'Reilly.
Immigration law.
Don't let your
26 years of experience.
10 languages.
I think
10 languages. That's if you summed the wins of Utah and Wyoming and added a few.
I'm crying.
If Utah and Wyoming wins were languages, they would be Wilner and O'Reilly.
I'm crying like real tears over here. I'm not trying to say Keelan Marion is a system returner.
I really hope they keep sponsoring us after this episode.
It's like, no.
They're either going to be very pleased or very disappointed.
You're getting your bang for your buck.
Kelly O'Reilly knew what I was when he picked me up, and I love him dearly.
I'm not trying to say that Keelan Marion is a system returner, but I think
if there was a such thing as system returners, it would be him.
I think Kelly Papinga, I almost said Brady Papinga. Kelly Papinga, special teams coordinator, greater than Keelan Marion, special teams returner. Like I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think that's accurate.
And that takes me to this last piece. The reason I think this BYU football team will actually be better this year, and I do think so, like vibes are really, really high on this BYU football team. It's the coaching staff, man. Like we always talk about returning production. Who's your quarterback? Like, did he play last year? Who are you returning on the offensive line? But like players come and go in college football. In the transfer portal era, they're only here for 3 years. The fact that BYU did not turn over a single coach this year is huge. And it's the reason I feel so confident. Like Aaron Roderick won a bowl game with Soljay Mayava Peters as his quarterback.
Build the statue.
And that's the answer to the question of who's the worst quarterback that could have started in 2017.
When BYU builds the Soul J statue eventually, I hope they use the one picture of this Instagram. It's one of the craziest things that's ever been on social media.
Oh man. Jay Hill.
Wilner and O'Reilly.
Is Soul J still at New Mexico?
Yes.
When Bronco went to Utah State, Soul J's like, yeah, count me in. And Bronco's just like, no, we're good, man.
Hey, I heard we're going to Utah State.
Yeah, shout out Bronco Mendenhall taking a bullet for BYU by taking that Utah State job to keep the Jay Hills of the world in Provo. Bronco forever Coug.
Bronco is the first college football coach to climb down the coaching ladder.
Aaron Roderick. Aaron Roderick has done an awesome job with every single quarter. I would argue every single quarterback he's managed has gotten better, than what he got. Keaton Slovis, again, I'm with you, Jackson. Keaton Slovis leads this team to a national championship. I'm all aboard the Keaton Slovis train.
It was a fun era of my life.
Jay Hill took the worst defense and pretty much the worst defense in all of FBS in 2022, turned them to a top 40 defense in terms of efficiency in 2023, and now the number one defense in 2 years with essentially the same talent, dare I say, as what BYU had in 2022. Just wait until he actually gets his recruits in, real recruits in there. Maybe we'll see some of them this year. Kelly Papinga has been incredible as the special teams coordinator. Best special teams BYU's had in a generation. According to SP Plus, BYU's special teams is worth 2 points per game, which is kind of crazy. And then you come at it at the top with Kalani Sitake, who is one of the best men, leaders. People give him crap for not being an X's and O's guy, whatever that means. BYU has won 9 games under Kalani Sitake with 4 different sets of coordinators. Kalani's the guy. Kalani has been the guy. The only 2 bad seasons he's ever had in his career at BYU, where when the cupboard was bare and he wasn't fortunate enough to have Sol-Jay Maiava-Peters as his quarterback in 2017 and the first year of the Big 12, and then turned that around and won 11 games a year later. This coaching staff is freaking awesome.
Coaching staff, better.
Better.
Jackson, thank you as always for hopping on the pod this week. We always love to hear from an actual professional when it comes to BYU insights.
Speaking of professional, Wilner and O'Reilly.
I didn't feel professional.
10 languages, you say?
Got a migraine from all the yelling. Maybe I'll add yelling to my hype train bag going forward.
Or is it from all the smiling?
That too.
Man, this has been fun. Thanks, boys. Go Cougs.
Cougs by a billion.
Read the Deseret news.